That was Derek White, BBA's Creation Unit Director. Wow, what a powerful presentation. They can't do it alone. You have some work to do there. They need your help. BBVA, thank you. He also said something I like, because he said it's not about what is in for me, but how can I help this person, this customer. That's the message. What a cool job. Creation Unit, yeah? Creation Unit, what a cool job. But talking about cool jobs, wait for the next one. This is a really cool job. Because we're going to jump from FinTech program, the disruption of financial services, to the Smart Mobility program. And what it's coming, it's really smart. And I can see there's a lot of interest. Everybody's read the program, you know where you are, full house. Okay, let me ask you a question, and I want some volunteers after the question, okay? Just imagine, let's imagine, people on the fourth, fifth row, yes, hello, 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 here, I'm here, hello. Let's imagine that you can move in a pod through a low-pressure tube, well, they call it officially pipe, through a low-pressure pipe at 1,000 kilometers an hour. Volunteers. Who would go in the pod? Wow, wow, a lot of crazy people there. Crazy people are at the front, as I can see. There's none at the back. Are they there asleep? Ah, there's one, two at the back. You don't have to imagine this, because this technology is already becoming a reality, and it's going to change our future. I bring you a man with a cool job, I said, and that works in a company that is creating a new form of transportation that will revolutionize the way we move, we connect, and the way we live. It might sound like science fiction, but beware, because the difference between science fiction and science is just time. So let's welcome the head of Marketing and Communications of Virgin Hyperloop One, Mr. Ryan Kelly. Woohoo! Welcome, Ryan. You have the so much.
We've got a band playing. All right. Buenos dias, South Summit. Woo! All right, that's all the Spanish that I know, and now I'm going to go back to English so I don't embarrass myself. My name is Ryan Kelly. I am the head of marketing and communications for Virgin Hyperloop One. We are the only Hyperloop company that has actually created a full-scale Hyperloop system in the world. And we are so excited to be here today among so many great companies, investors, and innovators. And since we're amongst entrepreneurs, investors, innovators, I want to tell you a quick personal story. In August of 2016, I cashed out of my business. I had been a partner at an ad agency in New York for about 6+ years, working with clients like Lufthansa, Oracle, Salesforce, PwC. I packed up my stuff, left my friends and family, and moved to Los Angeles to start working at Hyperloop One, which was the name back then. My friends and family, needless to say, thought I was absolutely insane, mostly because moving to Los Angeles as a native New Yorker is basically a sin. But it really is something interesting about the people that work there. About 260+ employees share a very common story with me. They all came from great jobs. Their careers were going really, really well. But they all believe that the next massive revolution in the economy is going to be smart transportation. Just as broadband was the backbone for the digital revolution, we feel strongly that Hyperloop will be the backbone of this smart transportation movement. In the same way that broadband brought people virtually closer together, we feel that Hyperloop can bring people physically together. So just quick show of hands, because there's been a lot of talk in Spain about Hyperloop lately. How many of you have heard of Hyperloop? Oh, wow. Excellent. I love it. I didn't get to see how many hands went up shooting through a tube at 1,000 kilometers an hour. I'm sure it would maybe be a lot less, but hopefully after this presentation, you feel a lot more comfortable with what we're trying to do. But first, just as a starter, I'd like to share this video.
Imagine traveling non-stop at up to 670 miles per hour, above land or underground. This is Hyperloop, a new mode of transportation that has been developed by Hyperloop One. It starts with an electric motor, which is broken up into two basic components: the rotor, which rotates, and the stator, which is stationary. The stator is an electromagnet, so when an electric current passes through it, the rotor is magnetically attracted to spin. Unlike a normal electric motor, the Hyperloop One motor isn't circular, it's linear. And the rotor is on the pod, which is propelled magnetically as it moves over the stator. Hyperloop One's unique technology uses magnetic levitation to guide and lift the pod off the track. Nearly all of the air inside the Hyperloop tube is removed using a series of vacuum pumps. This effectively creates our own sky inside the tube, as if you were quietly flying at 200,000 feet above sea level. This reduces drag so only the smallest amount of electricity is needed to achieve extraordinary speeds and creates a more cost and energy efficient system than high-speed rail or airline transport. Hyperloop One will be automated by the most advanced systems in the world, allowing a safe and efficient journey that's never delayed or overbooked. Hyperloop is the first new form of public transportation in over 100 years. Fundamentally, it will change the way we travel, work, and live. Welcome to the future. Welcome to Hyperloop One.
Okay, so hopefully everyone got all that, because there will be a quiz afterwards and how this actually works. But in all seriousness, just as a quick recap of what was in that video, it starts with a pod. This pod can carry both passengers and cargo. So our main investors, our executive chair is Sir Richard Branson, which is why we're a Virgin company. He's more concerned about the passenger experience, but the cargo experience is very, very important as well. And one of our main investors is DP World, which is the third largest cargo supplier in the world, running ports all over, including Rotterdam, etc. So we definitely have a balanced focus here on delivering both in a mixed-use system. That pod is placed in a low-pressure tube, and Helena did such a great job of actually describing this that I feel like I'm repeating myself, but the low-pressure tube is really important because it actually reduces aerodynamic drag. That does two things. It allows us to go 2 to 3 times the speed of a high-speed rail system, and at a fraction of the cost, because we use a fraction of the electricity used to electrify a high-speed rail, which is a huge cost savings when we look at cost-benefit analysis of putting in a Hyperloop system. We use our own proprietary electromagnetic propulsion system. This propels the pod, and it comes off the track and starts gliding using our next-gen magnetic levitation system floating through. Now, in terms of what we were talking about before, shooting through the pod at 1,000 kilometers per hour, the G-force that you'll feel while you're in the pod will be about 0.2 Gs, which is about the same as being on a train. In fact, when we were looking at designing the passenger pods, we were even considering not having seatbelts and having people walk around like they were on a metro or a subway. So as long as you're able to accelerate in a way that the body can handle it, it will be a lot less tumultuous than even taking off in an airplane. And a really important part about our system that makes it different than something like high-speed rail, and also wouldn't have been possible without the digital revolution, is the autonomous control platform. So we'll talk a little bit more about that in a second. So we talked a little bit about the product, but I want to take a step back and I want to talk about what really drives us forward. When we were thinking about creating this new transportation system, Hyperloop, we really wanted to focus in on what people really care about, because at the end of the day, people are the most important thing here. So you can go very, very fast, 1,000 kilometers an hour, but if it's not giving people value that they need, then it's not going to work. And so we feel at Virgin Hyperloop One that time is the most valuable resource that we have. Time to look for opportunities for new jobs, time to create families, and make friends and live where you want to live. So that's what we're trying to do. And so we're trying to create a product, and when we think about our product, it's about fast, effortless journeys that expand possibilities. So what does this mean? It means eliminating the barriers of distance and time. And it not only means going fast, and how fast, we said 1,000 kilometers already, but just to kind of give you an example of what we're talking about here, 500 kilometers in about 30 minutes. And when compared to different modes of transportation, there's a pretty significant time savings. And we'll talk about some of the projects that we're working on around the world to give those as an example. But again, it's not only about speed. Our system, because it's autonomous, can be on demand and direct to destination. What does on demand mean? On demand means that there's no conductor on the Hyperloop pod. It means that there are no schedules for Hyperloop pods. So you show up when you want to go, and you go. And the reason that we're able to do this is because unlike train cars, etc., we've created smaller pods that can leave within seconds of one another because of our autonomous system. When it comes to direct, what we mean by that is, let's say that we have a tube from Madrid to Paris to London. Two people come at the same time, and we know that they can leave right away, but they're going to get on separate pods, and everyone in each one of those pods is going to be going to their destination versus having to make a train stop. And this is a huge time savings. We find that people are more worried about the friction of an experience in a lot of ways, and so that direct and on-demand creates less friction. And in addition, if we had another 20 minutes, I could talk to you about the security systems that we're looking to implement, because we also find that no one complains when they're on the plane that the pilot isn't going fast enough. They always complain about what the security check-in looks like and the time to get to the airport and all the things surrounding when they get on that plane, unless it's a terrible experience, which usually has nothing to do with how fast the plane is going. So we want to be able to integrate with all these other modes of transportation. We're not a solution for everything, but we really want to make sure that if we're going to be leading this, that we up everyone's game when it comes to security, using things like facial recognition, fingerprint, retinal scanning, etc. Another important part of our system is energy efficiency. The company of the future and the transportation of the future needs to be sustainable. That not only means from a pollution standpoint, it means from a using materials standpoint that are recyclable, et cetera. We're looking at all of these options for the infrastructure that we're trying to create. But our system is 100% electric, which means that we can fit in right with the Paris Accords and be able to hit those numbers that Europe wants to hit, and the majority of the world as well. That means zero direct emissions, but zero direct emissions doesn't work unless you have clean energy. So we actually want to, and you can see in this image here, create solar panels on the tube and around the tube because we have a much smaller footprint than things like high-speed rail, where we could actually put solar panel on the tubes and around the tubes as well. So we create a clean energy system. In addition, we feel very strongly that as more electric cars come on the road, et cetera, the grids will need to change. So we can actually use a Hyperloop system to stabilize the grid and actually give energy back to the communities that we're in as well. Efficient land use. We get a lot of questions about eminent domain issues and how this would work within the infrastructure of crowded cities, et cetera. So we are looking at feasibility studies where we fit within existing right-of-ways. So a lot of our projects right now are actually above highway systems or train corridors that aren't being used, et cetera, and we have no at-grade crossings. And from a safety and security standpoint, that is huge. It's the #1 safety concern with any type of trains. Because we're in the tube, we're not affected by weather, and then we're not affected by any other type of form of transportation collaborating or connecting with us in a non-safe way. Again, we can be elevated above or below ground, and that actually creates less disruption for people and for wildlife. Because it's a low-pressure tube, we actually don't create a lot of noise pollution. So in a lot of areas where you would have open air, trains, you need to keep people far away from them from a noise standpoint. But with Hyperloop, we wouldn't have to do things like that. Now, a lot of the images that I've shown you today and the video that I showed you today were all CG graphics. So anyone can get up here and tap dance about, we're going to change the world and hear all these great things about what we're going to do. Actions speak louder than words. And so I want to introduce you to DevLoop, which is the first and only fully functioning Hyperloop system in the world.
Going up to DevLoop for the first time was seeing just unbridled opportunity. You saw the desert completely bare, and you saw in your head, in your mind's eye, what we were going to put there. I felt really confident because I have a tremendous confidence in the people that I work with and the people on the team that I helped build.
You've got teams from mechanical design, teams from computer engineering, and people who've worked on massive motor systems, massive rocket ships, and aerospace, aerodynamic engineering.
This thing that started as a sketch and an idea and then lived on this computer is now real, and it's welded and it's bolted and you can put your hands on it. And then we actually assemble all the parts onto it and send it up to site, and you flip the power switch and it just comes to life. That's really the engineering dream, to get to see that whole process through.
We broke all Hyperloop speed records. And to think we did all this in 10 months. We proved to the whole world that we can build safely, quickly, efficiently, and prove the technology works. This is just the beginning.
This company, like others in the Virgin family, has insatiable curiosity and the grit to get it done.
I can't wait to see what we do next as a team.
So that is DevLoop. It's located an hour outside of Las Vegas. Just want to talk about the speed levels there. I said 1,000 kilometers per hour is what we want to do. That 387 number, we feel very confident that that number can expand to that 1,000 kilometers per hour if we were able to extend the tube. So in that test, it accelerated for 300 meters and decelerated for 200. And from an engineering standpoint, that was statistically significant enough to make sure that, yes, we could get to that 1,000 kilometers per hour when we're able to extend and when we have our first project. So in 2017, we basically proved the technology works. From a base foundational level. 2018 was all about commercialization. It's one thing to have a great entrepreneurial idea. It's one thing to get a test track up and going and get the tech going. But we have to work with government regulators, safety concerns, people's safety concerns, et cetera. And that's not like building an app like Snapchat. So we do have this very entrepreneurial nature about us, but we also take those things seriously. And none of this should be taken with a grain of salt. So we started working with governments all around the world to start working on projects. So let's talk about a couple of them. And we're going to start with Spain. So first of all, again, it's just such an honor to be here today. This is the first time Virgin Hyperloop One is actually speaking in the country on one of these type of summits. But in August of 2018, this year, we signed an agreement with ADIF to explore the opportunity of creating a facility in the Andalusian region in the province of Malaga. And we looked all over the world, and we looked all over Europe. This is the first Virgin Hyperloop One test and development site that we will have on the continent. And we couldn't be happier to be in Spain. In the Andalusian region, there are 20,000 people working in research and development. There are 9,000 companies working in transportation and transport logistics. And it is the second largest cluster of aerospace engineers, which we're also very excited about. And actually, your Minister of Innovation is an astronaut or an ex-astronaut. So very excited to have all these engineers in good company with us. So in 2019, we look forward to working with ADIF, the Ministry of Innovation, and some other government entities to get this facility set up in this region, which is about 900,000 square feet. In 2020, we hope to be open and live and start recruiting. So follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, all of that kind of stuff, and we will let you know when it's time to apply. I've even got a couple phone calls already with resumes and applications, so hope to see you at the facility in 2020. There's also a bunch of different projects around the world. So this Test and Research Development Center that I was talking about is a little bit different than what we're looking at in other places around the world. Majority of the places that we're looking around the world are for projects specifically, and not to say that Spain doesn't need or deserve a Hyperloop. We'd love to see that happen, but the research and development facility is a great first step. So the first thing that I want to discuss, to make this real, there are 4 feasibility studies going on in the United States right now. 2 of those are environmental impact studies. That is the first step in creating any type of transportation infrastructure in the United States. Absolutely huge. It was the first time that Hyperloop was recognized as a new mode of transportation. 3 weeks ago, we were before the Senate at a hearing for the Transportation Commission, where they again recognized Hyperloop as a new form of transportation that they should be exploring. And we actually are now regulated under the Federal and Rail Administration and recognized not only on a federal but a state level. In addition, wanted to mention Dubai. Dubai is where we had our first feasibility study in 2016. I know there's been a lot of talk about pods here in Spain, but this was in February of 2018 where we released the first passenger pod to show what it looks like inside. XP1, the first pod that was created for Hyperloop, was created back in the beginning of 2017. But we're continuing to work with the RTA on next steps. Stay tuned for that. We also had His Royal Highness Prince Mohammed bin Salman from the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They're looking at Hyperloop opportunity with their Vision 2030 vision, and that actually is the pod for them in the back there. And we actually had a knowledge exchange program where 20 Saudi students came to see us in Los Angeles and work with us over the summer. And then I know that I'm almost out of time, but I really need to talk about this, so I'm hoping that they'll let me talk about it. India. This is why I wake up and go to work in the morning, honestly. This route is unbelievable. We think that this could potentially be the first Hyperloop route in the world. In February of 2018, Sir Richard Branson, with the Chief Minister of Maharashtra in the presence of Prime Minister Modi, signed a framework agreement for an intent to build, not a feasibility study, intent to build. It's the first one of its kind. We are moving very fast. We are moving forward with this route. And the reason why there's an intent to build on this is because the economics are so insane that they just want to make sure that this gets done as soon as possible. Mumbai to Pune right now takes about 2.5 hours, 3 hours by train. We would be able to crunch that down into 25 minutes conservatively. There are 110,000 cars that take that route every single day. We would be able to, in a year, use 126 million trips to take these folks back and forth and take 150,000 tons of pollution out of the air every single year. McKinsey, in a third-party study, said that putting a Hyperloop system that we have into this region would bring in $55 billion in socioeconomic benefits over the next 30 years. It's pretty incredible. So, in conclusion, the technology is real. It's there. We have the right people and are working with the right resources to make it happen. And hopefully we'll see a Hyperloop system within years, not decades. Thank you so much for your time.